Jan, I'll have you kick off the first question. What is your short list? And this is written from, the question was written from the perspective of a project leader, but as a team member. Short list of tasks, key tasks that you'd like to accomplish in your first meeting with your ACT team. And most of you will have your first meeting with your ACT team today. So we thought this would be a highly relevant question.
So I think there are three parts to that, three key tasks. And one, if you look at page 7, 6 and 7 of your ACT volunteer handbook, I put a little square around team kickoff meeting, which is, step number 12 or 13 for a project. By the time, our team kicks off on biodesign, a lot of things will have happened already. There'll have been conversations internally, conversations with the client, a draft plan developed. And my first recommendation would be is get everyone up to speed on everything that's happened to date. I have been on a project where it was sort of, I talked to the board member and he said that's what we wanted and that's what we're going to do. It's like, well, it's sort of like the train has already left the station and you're running to get on it. So I encourage team leaders to walk through everything that, the piece of paper that April first got that the client sent in to every conversation that's happened, and an org chart would be great. Here's who I've talked to at the organization. Here's what their position is. Here's what they said. Our biodesign team even has a better way of doing this. Dave Plow is leading it. The client's coming to our first kickoff meeting. He's going to be there for 30 minutes talking about the organization, why there's a project at all, and then he's leaving and then we're having our meeting. So getting everyone up to speed is the first thing I'd recommend. At the tail of the meeting, I think, is also sort of an easy thing that's pretty easy to understand. The tail of the meeting is also pretty easy to understand, and I'll talk about the middle last. The tail is sort of what we all did at MBA school, which is, okay, there's a team, there's a sub-team, there's a sub-team, there's a sub-team. Ideally, it's 2 on a sub-team or 3, so that if one drops off, you still have someone, and there's also pairing of someone who's really skilled in that area and someone who's learning a particular thing that they might not know as much about. One small point on this one, I'm sort of a data wonk on teams, is that I like there to be sort of a data plan in place and talked about at the early days, because it's often the hardest thing to get. One project that I was on for the YMCA, we wanted payroll data. That didn't come until 4 weeks before the end of the project, and we finally had something to say, oh, this is okay now. Now we know that your turnover rates aren't too high. So I think that's generally true in consulting, is the data takes a while. So that's the front and the back. The middle is, I think it would be helpful for team leaders to walk through the work plan and talk about, well, let me back up. I would want to know, joining as a team leader, sort of take me through all the elements of the organization that you know about. What's the mission? What are they trying to do? How are they financed? Whatever the team leader thought about in advance in coming up with the work plan, what the client asked for clearly. And then to go through, here's what my thinking is on the work plan and why, I think it's this kind of problem. This is a funding problem. Or for biodesign, I'll give 2 examples. For biodesign, what I have read, and I've only read the summary and the what was marketed to volunteers, is that they've sort of accomplished their mission and they're looking for what to do next. Well, that could mean either they don't know what to do next, or they don't know where the money's going to come for what they're going to do next, or there's no demand in the university for what they're doing, or it could mean a lot of different things. And I'd want the team leader to explain exactly sort of the underlying reason that we're working on that thing. So that's the beginning, middle, end.
I would just add that I think it's worthwhile very early in your effort to sit down and spend time together understanding what you know collectively and what you don't know. Because you have an academic expertise, may have been your concentration of coursework, you have the expertise that you have in what you do for a living, but then there's a whole another thing which is like real world experience, which turns out to be pretty valuable. And unless you understand where your holes are as well as where your strengths are, you may duplicate efforts or end up not having the expertise that you need in a project.
I suppose I have to add add something to that. Can't have just 3 tasks. We have to have 6. But so something that's easy to do in the last few minutes of the team meeting, and it's useful, is to set up an infrastructure, which is how are you going to communicate, when are you going to meet. It's very basic stuff, but it's kind of what helps you keep the project going smoothly in terms of this is our mode of communication, we're going to meet on a weekly basis or not, just things like that. It's very simple, but it's nice to get that done so you know where all you are.
One final thing I would add is, one thing I like to do with my teams is to go through and kind of find out a little bit about why everybody actually volunteered and what their expectations are for the project. So in addition to trying to meet the client's expectations, we certainly try to meet our volunteers' expectations too. And there may be things that might surprise you. People may have volunteered because they want to learn about a certain area, or they're trying to make a career change, or what have you. And it's nice to know that, so you can give your team members those opportunities as they come up and not just rely on the people who actually have the expertise already.